The road to the White House honors three simple yet powerful words: Black Lives Matter. This plaza is iconic, like the memorials to Abraham Lincoln and Martin Luther King Jr. It symbolizes the struggle for freedom and equality. As members of the National Education Association, we gather in these sacred places to demand justice and equity for Black lives in all places, in all forms. It is our responsibility as educators to ensure that every student feels welcome in school. Some may try to divide us, but we know that working together, we can make a better future. To our Black students, colleagues, and families, you matter. Your trauma matters. Your voice matters. Your protest matters. Your dreams matter. We mourn with you. We stand with you. And we organize with you to demand change.
We demand
a re-examination of the role of law enforcement in our communities and our schools. We must dismantle unjust policies that disproportionately impact Black people.
We demand
investment in the physical, mental, and economic health and growth of Black people. That means addressing the ways corporations have exploited and stolen wealth from Black and Native communities and then making them whole.
We demand
that Black educator and student voices be included in decisions that impact their schools and their communities. When students, families, and educators come together to ensure racial justice in public schools, it strengthens the entire community.
We demand
free, fair, and accessible elections. We must end voter suppression tactics politicians use to keep communities of color from having a voice in our government. The future is the sum of the changes we demand, the courage we display, how we stand with each other and for each other. Together, we can rewrite the rules and hold decision makers accountable to guarantee justice for Black lives in our schools and our communities. We will not rest until there is a future where Black lives thrive.
Welcome to the NEA Conference on Racial and Social Justice, where educators, activists, and allies come together to provide healthy curricular space for children and organized connectivity for our communities. During this two-day program, you'll hear from leading authors, advocates, and activists, all focused on building safe and just places for our families to rely on for help. Now, we've all just experienced an extremely challenging 18 months, and our hope is that we can gather here at the Conference on Racial and Social Justice to not only reflect on our losses, but exchange perspective on what we can do to secure a brighter future for us all. The NEA Festival of Inspiration, Reflection, and Joy aspires to showcase the incredible group of musicians, artists, and storytellers that speak to the very reason we've come together for these 2 days. You and yours can follow the conversation and get involved on social media with the hashtag NEA Crsj 2021 and by logging into the NEA website at neaedjustice.org. That's neaedjustice.org. In the spirit of community and connectedness, we like to open all NEA programs with a land acknowledgement to ground us and cleanse our palates.
We begin by acknowledging that we meet on the traditional lands of the Lenape people, Lenape-Hokong, a confederacy of many smaller nations. We acknowledge all of this land's first people from sea to shining sea. We acknowledge all ancestors, elders, and children, past, present, and future, and we are called on to learn and share what we learn about tribal sovereignty, land stewardship, and land back. all the ways in which we can support that which has been suppressed in telling the story of so-called America.
Hello, I am Becky Pringle, President of the National Education Association. Welcome to the NEA Conference on Racial and Social Justice. What a difference a year makes. We got out the vote. We came together across race and place to swear in new leaders who pledged to govern for all of us, not just the wealthy and well-connected. We mobilized for the care, security, and support we all need, and for the safety of all of our communities. We know the ability to make it home to our families at the end of the day is a basic right. Through the losses, fears, and uncertainty this year brought to our doorsteps, we took care of each other. Amidst vast inequities in healthcare, policing, and education, we pulled together and we did the work to build a stronger, healthier, and more just future. I became NEA president last September, with America's racial and social inequities in full view, painfully raw, and vividly undeniable. I knew for us to truly prepare every student in every zip code to thrive, educators, parents, students, and allies would need to join together to ensure public education fulfills its promise. And I know that's possible. Why? Because we have joined together to win for our students before. Educators organized the Red for Ed movement, and we were not alone. Our students, neighbors, families, and friends stood with us. Across this nation, we won funding for new textbooks, technology, and infrastructure. We won increases in educator pay. We won supportive school environments that respect our students. We even won more recess time. Our movements can win the public schools our students need and so deserve. We have passion. We have people. But most importantly, we have power. Power to ensure every child can pursue their dreams. Power to ensure small class sizes and healthy meals, nurses and counselors, paraprofessionals, and pre-K and higher education teachers. Power to demand that every student, everyone, has what they need to pursue their dreams, to chase their curiosity, to live into their brilliance. We have the power to stop Asian hate and the power to realize justice for Black lives. We have the power to ensure this nation creates an immigration process that is fair and comprehensive. We have the power to support LGBTQ+ youth and educators. We have the power to ensure that when the story of America is told, the culture and contributions of Native Americans are a central part of that telling. This is our time. Together, we will make a future where every student across race and place, across identity and gender, can learn and thrive. There are no exceptions. Over the next 2 days, this virtual festival will be full of inspiration and joy and energy. I am happy you are here. I am grateful that we are together in this space and in this movement for justice.
Inspirational words from the president of the National Education Association, the nation's largest labor union, and our gracious host tonight. Becky Pringle is a Philadelphia native and a science educator whose deep commitment to the education of our nation's youth and justice in our schools is driven by her view that our children's education belongs to all of us, and that we must honestly face and understand our past and present in order to create a better future in the American educational system. And a better future is exactly why we're here. And with that being said, we'd like to take a moment to thank the 3 million educators who are members of the NEA. Thank you all for your leadership and tireless work on behalf of all of our children. And for all the parents, students, and partners out there, we applaud you as well, because we're all connected in our mission to make sure that every student can be all that they dream. Now, let's get down to it. Allow me the pleasure of opening today's program with an artist whose music draws from his family's Sudanese roots, their immigrant experience, and his own Washington, D.C. upbringing. Please help me welcome one of my favorites, my brother, Odyssey.
Yeah. Growing up in the DMV, I always felt a sense of pride, like I could do anything, because I saw good examples of myself everywhere that I went. This is a song that we made to dedicate to how resilient we were and how easy it was to see something, think about it, dream it, and it to come to life. And never being able to settle, you know? Yeah. Let's hit it. Never not getting enough. Ooh, never not getting enough. Yeah. I mean, what is it to fear? I'm from Black America, it's just another year. You knew the disrespect by your elected puppeteers. Well, let me show you how to persevere. Just get up every time somebody knock you down and celebrate in front of people like they're not around. And if they try to build a wall to keep you balling out of bounds, use the best they told you want to keep them balling out of bounds. Shout out to Latinos, cause hustling ain't illegal. We bring it to the east of the Father, we all are equal. I'm asking in the crowd, did one of them disagree though? And say it loud, did one of y'all disagree? Like, no! This for Chocolate City though, I represent the county. Until the voters counted, no, I got you till I'm outie. It's all about the effort and I'm effortlessly fresh. If I'm preaching to the choir, know they bound to get the lecture. It went from folks around me pushing envelopes of boundaries, so you won't only hear me where you found me. I'm somewhere asking questions like, can it be afforded the most? Better answer me with more than a no, trying to tell you. Ooh, never not getting enough in this life that I'm leading. And all I believe in, y'all go, I ain't leaving, I'm posted like. Never not getting enough in this life that I'm leading. And all I believe in, y'all go, I ain't leaving. All I know is love. I get it how I get it, I can never get enough. Sympathy to enemies, cause hate ain't in my blood. And if you can't relate, you're giving up. I'm trying to get more than enough. Getting close is a no, well nothing lesser than a yes, cause it's supposed to be so. The cost of nothing too low, my expectations too high. Look, I'd rather die than never let this shit go. Apathy is a disease and we just steady sharing needles. Unaffected people carry evil. Ease is what we know, we gotta raise the bottle. The sorrows of today could give away to what tomorrow. So what's a week of paid leave? And if your promises are hiring, justify me before retirement. I'm trying to make more in one day than 401k. So give me what you promised to pay, cause it's never enough. Never not getting enough in this life that I'm leading. And all I believe in, y'all go, I ain't leaving, I'm posted like. Never not getting enough in this life that I'm leading. And all I believe in, y'all go, I ain't leaving, I'm posted like. Fred, what you got? Yeah. Never not getting enough in this life that I'm leading. And no, I believe in y'all go. I ain't leaving no posted light. Never not getting enough in this life that I'm leading. And no, I believe in y'all go. I ain't leaving. We posted light.
Never not getting enough. Getting enough. I said, ooh, I never not getting
Yeah. I wrote this song just after being in Europe during the migrant crisis that was sweeping through. And my mother's Black American from Washington, D.C., but my father's from Sudan. And I saw myself and many of the people that I encountered while we were out there, just wondering what would it be like to be the victim of a drone strike or a civil war or unrest or political instability. And it felt really, really close to home. And this is what I wrote for it. Can't just let me be, can't just let me live. Regardless my belief, thought our fathers wrote that clear. The shadow in the cloud ain't got no give. Trying to lift the shadow in the cloud ain't got no give. Why can't you let me be? Why can't you let me live? Regardless my belief, I thought our fathers wrote that clear. The darkness what I see, in darkness what I hear. I'm trying to lift that shadow, but that cloud ain't got no give. Just $1 below 10K, that's the amount I'm flying with. One more buck and the law comes out and they all wanna know about why I'm rich. I'm not rich, I'm just on the way back to the land where they need this grip. You give yours to a charity fund, I give mine to a cuz that's sick. You see your name and it fall on the list, scared I'm involved in the cause and the pain. Lost somebody you loved in them towers and looking at me like I boarded the plane. I'm not a target, you not an artist, all look the song, it's all look the same. With that knowledge I stay calm, search for a bomb, find his grain, all in the name. I got a name that escape all the brave out the land of the free. All in the name of protecting the country that's shooting the citizens dead in the streets. I used to live in Northeast DC, not too far from Capitol Hill. White House here, Trap House there. They were so near you could go by feet. Never mind that, cause that's not news. Let's stay glued to the war on peace. Who get blamed? Whoever can sway that election tour with the order seeks. We just wanna keep oil cheap. We just wanna keep motive full. What that mean? Distractions can't think my TV clothed in wool. Man, I swear I think my phone tapped. Man, I swear they watching all my moves. Since 9/11 ain't too clear just who the target is. I love my country, hate its politics. Can't just let me be, can't just let me live. Regardless my belief, thought the fathers wrote that clear. But darkness all I see, and darkness all I hear. I'm trying to lift the shadow, but that cloud ain't got no give. Why can't you let me be? Why can't you let me live? Regardless my belief, I thought our fathers wrote that clear. But darkness all I see, and darkness all I hear. I'm trying to lift the shadow, but that cloud ain't got no give. I was on tour when the migrants came. Saw that bus on side of the road. I met a boy who arrived in the rain. Lost his folks when they torched his home. That made me want to bring my fam before they see that side of a drone. But who wants us? We build your world. Labor cool, neighbors no. I got a cousin to drive your taxi. I got a cousin to make your food. I got a cousin to watch your kids, pick them up when they done with school. I got a cousin to pump your gas. I got a cousin that's good with tools. I got a cousin to be your doctor after a test, and I hope she passed. Isn't that what you fear most? But fear don't trump your needs. Our pros do trump our cons though, but cons don't trump your greed. And monsters what you make of us, but we make you succeed. And that's what make our country great. It's built by those who bleed. It's built by those who came on boats. It's built by those who flee. And you forgot your family tree. We just saw your leaves. If you try to chop us down, you only hurt your knees. And we could go with pieces, but rather go in peace. Let me be. let me live. Regardless my belief, thought our fathers wrote it clear. But darkness all I see, and darkness all I hear. I'm trying to live for shadow, but that cloud ain't got no gear. Why can't you let me be? Why can't you let me live? Regardless my belief, thought the fathers wrote it clear. But darkness all I see, and darkness all I hear. I'm trying to live for shadow, but that cloud ain't got no gear. Yeah. Sending peace and blessings to love to everybody on the borders right now. All the families who are separated. All of the refugees in the world. The world is your home. Yeah. Thank you very much. I wrote this song, I guess it was spring 2020. This is a song about escapism for me. And I mean, I'm sure many of us wanted to escape. We were all in quarantine, you know. But it was also a time of social and political unrest here in America, and it spread elsewhere throughout the rest of the world. And I wrote this from the perspective of being someone who would sacrifice any and all things to ascend out of the world that they live in, for better or for worse. Yeah. I done played by the rules. I've been made out a fool by the few who make the laws. Don't break or make a clause. Wanna fish, not just fry. Wanna live while alive. What's the cost? All don't pay. Wave me by. Save a pie, not a slice for the mice among men. Let me fend for myself, you just lend what I spend. Pay you back extra cents, that's them dollars, not revenge. That's the interest I ain't in, it's getting high. It's savior, someone who will save ya. Or at least make it feel like it will. Tell your will is enslaved up. I don't know, but I'm starting to feel like I'm caught in a wheel that's spinning around with no brakes up a hill. Is it fact? Is it fate? Doesn't matter if it's real. Just as long as I escape. I wanna go to Mars and live amongst the stars and be the one who got away from it all. I wanna go to Mars and live amongst the stars. Be the one who got away from it all. Fighting for a seat on a vessel fully booked. I compete for a chance, satisfied with just a look. Trying to get on board in front with all the crooks. Show 'em I am something more than just a number in a book. I'm a king without a castle with some hassle, but it's free. Just another brother quick to turn his back on other peeps. If it mean I'm seen as higher than them classes under me. If I'm fine, it's all that matters. Politics don't party, please. Hear me out now. I'm filled up with doubt now. That if I don't sell you out, I join the crowd of us that's living just about down. I don't know, but I've reached the top of the bottom, and now I'm at the bottom of something still far from the ground. If I fail to understand how to live entitled, cause survival all I comprehend. I pretend I wanna go to Mars and live amongst the stars and be the one to get away from it all. I wanna go to Mars and live amongst the stars and be the one to get away from it all. Ladies and gentlemen, Ralph Real on keys. Ezekiel on guitar. live amongst the stars and be the one to get away from it all. I wanna go to Mars and live amongst the stars and be the one to get away from it all. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very, very, very much. To the NEA, thank you very, very much. We appreciate all the hard work that you all do. Education is key. Yeah, yeah. Check them out, fellas. Peace.
Thank you, Odyssey. Now, shifting gears, we're going to go from art to books. Our first idea maker is Dr. Ibram X. Kendi, anti-racist academic, author of the book Stamped from the Beginning, How to Be an Anti-Racist, and 400 Souls. Dr. Kendi is the living definition of a truth teller. His best-selling books have transformed the landscape of anti-racist education and activism. He's been a grounding voice in 21st century racial justice reckoning and has done a great deal of work to expose structural inequalities and how different communities are treated by the system. And now, a word from Dr. Ibram X. Kendi.
Hello, everyone. I'm just really honored and excited to be able to address you today. Thank you so much to the National Education Association. I'm truly honored to be able to address this conference on racial and social justice. I've been asked to speak on the topic racism and its effect on our public health. And indeed, this to me is a extremely pertinent topic. Indeed, I'm not able to be with you there in the flesh and we're not able to be together, indeed, as you know, because of the coronavirus pandemic. But in many ways, this COVID-19 pandemic has taught us a lesson, has taught us the ultimate lesson as to how and why racism impacts our public health. And when I say public health, I'm not just talking about the health of Black, Brown, and Indigenous or Asian Americans or white Americans. I'm really talking about the health of us all, the health of the community. And indeed, I can remember around this time last year when people across this country were demonstrating to reopen states, to reopen restaurants, to reopen facilities. And in many ways, these people were arguing that their freedom had been taken away, that they were no longer free to do certain things that they wanted to do, that their civil liberties were taken away. And really, at the heart of the matter, really over this pandemic, has been over this clash of freedom. And what I mean by that is this clash between the individual who wants the freedom to infect the community and the community who wants freedom from infection from individuals. And so when I think of public health, I'm not thinking about what's best for any single individual. I'm not thinking about whether an individual should have the ability to infect me. That's not the type of freedom. That's not the type of nation that I'm trying to build. I just as I don't think an individual should have the freedom to enslave me, to oppress me, to exploit anyone. I don't think individuals should have the freedom to infect. What I want is the freedom of the community from infection, from oppression, from slavery, from segregation, from exploitation. And so when we're thinking about public health, we're really thinking about what is going to make us healthier as a community. What is harming us as a community? And at the top of that list is indeed racism from so many different vantage points. One of the more obvious ones is as I was mentioning, around this time last year, you had people demonstrating and advocating for the ability for their states, for their communities, for their cities and towns and counties to open back up. And one of the reasons for that, and even one of the reasons why many elected officials gave in, was because who was dying? Who was dying at the highest rates? Because by this time last year, we knew that Black people in particular were dying at the highest rates from COVID-19. And unfortunately, to too many Americans, the lives of Black people do not matter. Just as the lives of Latinx people and Native people and Asian Americans who faced all sorts of terror don't matter. But you know whose lives also, in many cases, do not matter as a result of racism, who faces the collateral damage of racism, is even white people. Because once we started opening back up states, it didn't just lead to more people of color being infected and killed. It led to even more white people being infected and killed by the coronavirus. So our racist ideas that prevent us from valuing the lives and the health and the well-being of all Americans, the racist ideas that prevent us from seeing the critical importance of every single American having universal access to high-quality health care, harms the community, makes the community unhealthy, and thereby makes us unhealthy. The fact that we still somehow have a nation in which food insecurity is rampant, housing insecurity is rampant, a nation where people are not provided mental health services, a nation where all these unhealthy conditions are leading to so many people facing health challenges. And then a nation where too many of us, instead of seeing those root causes of, let's say, why certain groups are on the dying end of racial health disparities, instead we're taught to blame those people. And indeed, that's what happened with the coronavirus. By early April of last year, when we learned that Black, brown, and indigenous people were being infected and killed and at the highest rates from COVID-19, the immediate response for too many Americans was, well, what's wrong with them? Why are they not socially distancing? Why are they not taking the coronavirus seriously? Why do they have so many pre-existing conditions? Why are they so, quote, obese? Why are they so lazy? Why don't they take care of themselves? Again, these explanations that there's something wrong or inferior about Black people, about other people of color, that they are the cause, they are the reason why they're dying at higher rates. And those are racist ideas. Because anytime we suggest a racial group is better or worse, inferior or superior to another racial group, we are expressing racist ideas. Anytime we explain away racial disparities or inequities by claiming that it's because that group on the lower end of the disparity is inferior, we are expressing racist ideas. And we're commonly taught to do that, when we see racial health disparities, when we see educational disparities, when we see many different forms of racial inequity or injustice, well, what's wrong with those people? As opposed to what's wrong with racism. And the more we see what's wrong with racism, the more we tackle the policies and practices that are actually leading to unhealthy conditions that are actually leading to unhealthy peoples. The more we can create a community free from infection, a community free to be healthy. But instead we're constantly taught that it's not that simple, that there must be something wrong with those people. And what I'm sort of came to tell you is that in many ways it's not simple. Trying to understand this question, this debate about race and racism in our society is deeply complex, but at the same time, it's actually quite simple. We have racial disparities and inequities in our society, in our healthcare system. The question is why? The question is why? Is it because we have bad policies that are racist? Or is it because we have bad people who are inferior? And to recognize the racial groups as equals, to then turn to then see the problem as racism, to then try to figure out those policies and practices that are racist and eliminate them and challenge them, I should say, and replace them with policies that can create equity and justice for all. That's being anti-racist. And that's what I wanted to, if there's anything we should learn from this pandemic, it is the critical importance of being anti-racist. How being anti-racist can allow us to create healthier conditions. Indeed, when it comes to reasons why Black people died at the highest rates from COVID-19, what was even more critical than pre-existing conditions, which became the sort of narrative after the narrative that it was because Black people were not taking the coronavirus seriously, was rebuked by large groups of white people demonstrating to reopen states, or surveys that found that Black people were actually the most likely to be taking the coronavirus seriously. It shifted to, well, it must mean because they have greater, more pre-existing conditions. But actually, what we found, what studies showed, was the reason why Black people were dying at the highest rates were a series of conditions that they faced, from the fact that Black people were more likely than white people to work in essential jobs, the fact that Black people were less likely to have health insurance, the fact that Black people were more likely to live in what's called trauma deserts, where you don't have access to a high quality trauma one center that provides life-saving care. The fact that Black people were living in neighborhoods with higher levels of air and water pollution. You put those factors together, you can begin to understand how you live in a polluted neighborhood that's no fault of your own. You're more likely to have pre-existing conditions. You are more likely to be an essential worker because your schools have been starved. And so therefore, there's this sort of pipeline of people in your community, from schools to either prisons or essential service work positions. And then as a result of working in these jobs that you can't work from home, you're more likely to be infected. And then when you get infected, you're less likely to immediately go to a medical provider because you don't have health insurance. And then when you do present, you present with advanced stages of COVID-19, But you present at a hospital that's not a trauma one center. That is not the place that is most likely to provide you with life-saving care. And then we wonder why so many Black people died. So many non-Black people with similar circumstances died from COVID-19. And we wonder why so many people, day in and day out, are unhealthy due to racist conditions, or unhealthy even due to racism. Racism itself is a stressor. Having to deal with the trauma of racism is unhealthy. Indeed, recently, of course, was the 1-year anniversary of George Floyd's murder. And I know many people who saw themselves being kneed, who saw themselves being suffocated to death, were traumatized by that video. Racism itself is traumatizing to its victims. And so we're at a moment as we come out of this pandemic to learn from this pandemic, to learn that racism is death, literally, and anti-racism can be life. And we need to ensure that we are advocating for and instituting policies that eliminate conditions that make communities unhealthy, that hold people accountable so they stop traumatizing peoples from Asian Americans to Black Americans with racial terror. We need to create this type of society, and we can do it. And we have that mandate. And we have this mandate to be anti-racist. And to me, we should have that urgency. We should have that urgency because so many people have died who did not have to die. So many people were hospitalized who did not have to be hospitalized. And so at some point, we're going to try, and we need to try, to build this country anew, to create a healthy, anti-racist nation. Thank you.
When the impossible now happens daily, it's time we recognize that we define what possible means. We cannot go back to business as usual because business as usual is what created this crisis. For too long, the few have had their say over the many by keeping us divided. We can make sure we have what we need to get and stay well. Because the future is what we do together.
Educators are meeting the moment in their communities. Throughout this festival, we're going to feature local and national affiliates of the NEA, proving how when we come together, we build the foundation to win for education justice. And speaking of ideas in educational justice, here's a story on topic from Canton, Massachusetts.
The Asian American Educator Mentorship Program has had a very big impact on my life in the past year. When I started the program, I had a full-time job outside of education, and I joined the program because I was interested in becoming an educator, but didn't really know how to get started or didn't really know if it was for me or not.
We're providing another layer of support for each other in which we can touch base with colleagues in affinity groups and also support each other even though we're not in the same school district.
I feel like every step along the journey, people from this program have kind of held my hand and pushed me along, and that was like the support I really needed to kind of get started on this path.
One of the issues that we have been facing across the nation this year has been the pandemic and how we can keep our schools and our students safe. whether they're at school or at home.
And so it's been very important for us to listen to not only our community members in the field, but also our community members at home. And I think that's why it's been so important for us to have this CAPE grant, because we can hold these spaces collectively. And so for me, what it means to stand up and to stand out means to bring voice, to represent the voices of the people who are normally invisible, who are normally erased.
If you're not seeing me, then I worry that you're not seeing your students in your classroom.
In the United States, 6% of the teaching force is Asian American Pacific Islanders, but in places like Massachusetts, we actually have larger populations of students in the community, but not enough teachers who look like them and also come from their linguistic and also ethnic background.
Having this space and having it be statewide, for some teachers, they don't have other Asian American educators in their school system. It has been very powerful to get to connect with other people and feel a little bit less alone, especially, with remote learning, with the increase of anti-Asian violence. It has been very powerful and important.
We have over 47 different mainland countries, and let alone over 8 different archipelago groups for our Pacific Islanders. And so I'd love for more people to just learn the richness and the diversity, and that we're not all the same.
We're hoping that with the success of this affinity group, that other groups can model their mentorship program after ours.
Big thanks to the students of East New York Elementary School of Excellence and their teacher, Tim Lorelli, for showing us a perfect example of how joy can be found in schools every day. Marca 27 is a Brooklyn-based Mexican artist whose work speaks directly to creative activism, cultural awareness, and respect. NEA was fortunate enough to have Marca join our campaign to make sure the 2020 census was inclusive and accessible to all.
I'm Marco 27, originally from Juarez, Mexico, Brooklyn artist. I'm also an artist of the streets. You know, I paint what I see, I paint my community, I paint what influences life, what influences culture, and it's something that is always a part of my art. You know, Nina Simone said it best when she said it's an artist's duty to reflect what's going on around them and what's going on, you know, in culture. And I believe that for me, being an artist that reflects what's going on in the streets, of course, what's going on right now with everything that has to do with racial justice and social justice has to be reflected in the work that I do. Not every single mural has to have a political message, but it definitely has to have impact, and it needs to help people grow. What we can do best really to secure a more safe and healthy future for future generations, future artists, is to empower people by the images that we paint, empower them by the way we reflect our culture, our people, Black, brown, Asian, indigenous, basically anybody who needs that empowerment, that doesn't see themselves reflected in society in a way that is empowering. We need to do that as artists, as musicians, as educators, and I think it's important for that to always be at the forefront of the artwork that we do. Knowledge is key. You know, knowledge of self is power, and the only way we can do that is, you know, by being griots and teaching each other, you know, through art, through visual, through music, through education. And the artwork that we paint, it's going to tell stories for generations to come.
I mean, really, no fear.
Our next idea maker is Crsj Martinez, Executive Director of United We Dream, the largest immigrant youth-led network in the United States with more than 800,000 members. Originally from Hidalgo, Mexico, Crsj came to the United States with her parents and sisters at a very young age and grew up in Oak Cliff, Dallas, Texas. Crsj began her organizing journey by leading a student walkout from her high school to demand justice for undocumented people. And tomorrow is the 9-year anniversary of the DACA program, which has transformed the lives of so many families across the country, making our communities even stronger. So it's especially timely to hear from Crsj today. This week also marks the Educator Week of Action. And I know when the NEA mails you on Wednesday with ways to support, you'll be right there with Crsj, United We Dream, and all the immigrant families across the country who need us now.
Are you, NEA family? It's such an honor to be with all of you today. My name is Crsj Martinez Rosas, and I have the privilege of serving as the Executive Director of United We Dream and United We Dream Action. We are the nation's largest immigrant youth-led network in the country, and we are also the nation's largest fans of the NEA and your Conference of Racial and Social Justice. It's an honor to join you in your steadfast commitment to ensuring that all students, all educators, all people in the US are able to live lives of dignity and access and an ability to learn and grow into this world. And so I just want to take this moment to say how grateful I am, how proud we are at United We Dream to stand not only in solidarity, but in deep, deep love and appreciation to the National Education Association and its most important component, its members. So from the bottom of my heart, muchas gracias. Thank you so much for all of the work and all of the commitment to ensuring that immigrants in this country felt what we chanted in the street, saying that we are here to stay, that home is here, and that undocumented young people belong in this country, that our families belong in this country, and that everyone deserves a chance. And that is the history and the legacy of NEA, of this conference, and of everyday work that you all lead. So thank you. I want to say that very often the lives of undocumented young people are forever changed by the educators that they encounter. And for many of us, educators are often the first people that we share with them that we are undocumented and that we feel comfortable being able to share our status with. And I want us to say thank you. You may have had those conversations this year, and I hope that, and I know in my heart that you treated that with the dignity and the love that that conversation deserved. Many of you over this last 4 years may have also helped your students with deportation preparedness plans. I know that my sister, who's an educator in Dallas, Texas, talks to me every day about having difficult conversations with the parents and her 4-year-old students, basically talking about what does it mean when a father or a mother are detained or deported, and what the impact of that is, not only on the child's well-being, but on the classroom itself. And so I want to take a moment to say thank you for that emotional labor. Thank you for the work that you're done. And very clearly that in this moment, our work is not done, because we know that like part of the idea of why we're in this work is that there continues to be barriers to education, whether you're undocumented, especially Black students in this country are facing unending challenges, but it requires a group of committed leaders, of heroes, of people that decide to dedicate themselves to their craft, and that is you all. So thank you so much for the work that you've done. You know, the immigrant youth movement grew its strength in the early 2000s by the determination of undocumented students like me we were struggling to find a path to continue our education after high school. And educators have always been our allies and always been by our side. And now, thanks to programs like DACA, some of us get to be educators and get to be teachers. And one of those is Karen Reyes. Karen is an educator and a United Region member, a DACA recipient, and a member of the NEA in Texas and AFT. And a few weeks ago, Karen was one of 6 DACA recipients who joined President Biden in the White House for his first meeting with immigrants, and to talk about the importance of including the Dream and Promise Act in this next upcoming Build Back Better plan. And so in this meeting, Karen talked about her work as an educator. She uplifted the everyday work that teachers like yourselves are driving for on behalf of our country. And she also shared the story of her mother and ensured that we are really clear that in this moment, we require citizenship for undocumented parents and people that are the support system of students across the country. Some of Karen's students are also undocumented themselves and sent messages through Karen to the president to deliver, to say that we needed to have permanent protection for millions of undocumented people. It is many times that, that as we talked about earlier, that Karen and other educators are faced with the difficult and heartbreaking conversations around what does it mean for a student when their parent is detained, deported, or sometimes killed in detention. The unfortunate reality is that detention and deportation is a constant fear for undocumented students and students who have undocumented parents. And for millions of those of us across the country, our immigration status continues to be a barrier for our learning, whether it's uncertainty about being able to go to college because we're undocumented, or whether it's fear that our family member will be detained and deported. And the lack of citizenship for our students and family continues to ensure that so many barriers are rooted in what we call white nationalism and white supremacy. Education isn't the only barrier that exists in this country for undocumented people. And we have seen that it's why it's important to recognize that our fight to win a pathway for citizenship for millions of undocumented people, and our fight to make sure that everyone, regardless of immigration status, is able to access a good education is part of a broader fight for racial justice. While the previous administration did everything in their power to make life harder for immigrants in the US, from guiding the asylum system to ending programs like DACA, they built upon a growing anti-immigrant movement born from the white nationalist movement as a tool for its obsession with demographics, and a particular obsession with maintaining a white majority and harming Black and Brown people. This growing movement has led to the dehumanization and criminalization of Black and Brown immigrants, but let's be explicit, it is the dehumanization and criminalization of, in particular, Black women. And Claudia Gomez Gonzalez was a 20-year-old woman from Guatemala who was brutally killed by CBP officer. And Claudia was just a young girl. She was trying to come to America to be able to get an education. Maybe she would have been in one of your classrooms. But unfortunately, the lives of Black and Brown people like Claudia have been criminalized to the point where enforcement agencies like ICE and CBP and police are empowered to carry out killings of our people without any consequences. This same criminalization has kept millions of undocumented people without citizenship for decades. It has been nearly 35 years since the last time that immigration reform passed in this country. And in that time, billions of dollars have been spread in growing the deportation forces of ICE and CBP, expanding detentions for immigrants, and building a collaboration between immigration enforcement and local police. And the COVID-19 pandemic has only magnified and made long existing systemic inequalities worse for immigrants. Immigration status remains a significant barrier to COVID-19 relief. And while being on the front lines in our country's response to the pandemic, from helping us keep us safe, fed, and healthy, immigrants have been excluded from the federal pandemic relief. Everything from financial assistance like unemployment to stimulus check to, in some cases, even the COVID-19 vaccine itself has been barred for undocumented people. How does denying a life-saving vaccine to someone who is undocumented help us recover as a nation? It doesn't. And if anything, it makes it harder. But the continued criminalization of Black and Brown immigrants makes it easier for our governments and institutions to deny immigrants their full humanity. Again, I say that immigrant justice is racial justice. But sisters and brothers, despite the challenges that we face, I am hopeful for the work that we will continue to do together to bring us closer to justice and dignity for all people. I firmly believe that this is the year that we will win citizenship for millions of undocumented people. I can feel it in my bones. And I felt it a few weeks ago when immigrant young people of United We Dream, we put our bodies on the line calling for President Biden and Democrats to prioritize a pathway to citizenship for millions of undocumented immigrants by adding it to the American Jobs Package. Seeing immigrant young people take over the streets of DC near the White House reminded me of the first time that I took action. I organized a walkout from my high school. And on the news feeds a few weeks ago, before I had seen people walk to the street to call for immigration reform, I was just a young undocumented woman. And I was so ashamed of being undocumented. But when I saw other young people come out in defense for undocumented people, I was so in awe in the courage of the people that I saw that I took action and I wanted to do it myself. I organized at my high school, and let me tell you, when the time came to the walkout, I was nervous that no one would do it with me, that I would be alone, that it might be too much. But it felt like the space and the freedom to organize this walkout because of the inclusive environment educators had fostered for me. Miss Pat, she was my teacher and the person that I told everything to, that I came out to as an undocumented person. She would have had my back. I knew that. And in the end, hundreds from students from my high school joined in that walkout, including some of the teachers. I know that we will win because we have been organizing and building together for years. Our power, your power, is undeniable. And I know that we will win because our commitment towards justice, I have seen it, I have felt it. You live it every single day here at the NEA. And I've seen this commitment in the way that educators have created spaces for immigrant young people, keeping us safe and advocating with us during the Trump administration. In my hometown of Dallas, Texas, recently, teachers went to facilities housing unaccompanied minors to ensure they felt safe, welcome after the difficult decisions to leave their homes. My friend Esmeralda, who's a teacher in the high school, recently went to be able to be volunteers. And I know that there's many of you all that have dedicated your time, your resources to welcoming immigrants with dignity. Because we all know that we can both be a country that delivers citizenship and welcomes new immigrants. We know that the future that we want is possible because our vision is rooted in justice and dignity for all people, all of us. We are simply demanding what our communities deserve. Justice and dignity has been delayed for far too long, sisters, brothers, and siblings. Our power is undeniable, our existence is undeniable, and I believe that we will win. Thank you so much to NEA. Thank you for the everyday work that you do. Si se puede, let's do this. Let's win.
Ana Karen, I am 20 years old and I am undocumented with DACA. I've been undocumented all of my life, but I never realized or knew how important it was until I was in high school when I started applying to colleges and jobs. Growing up, I always knew that deportation was something that existed in our lives. I lost a sense of security knowing that my parents could have been taken away, whether it was like just going to work or going to the store or going to doctor's appointment. My dad has been a farm worker for almost 20 years now. He started working in the Central Valley where he was a field worker in the fields of peaches, apples, cherries. Farm workers like my dad still have to go into work no matter what, whether it's raining a lot and also whether there's fires going on and the smoke and the air quality are bad, they still go into work because people depend on it. When I got DACA in 2018, it was really a relief for me because it gave me a sense of security knowing that I wouldn't be deported if I was stopped for any reason. A pathway to citizenship for farm workers like my dad and young people like me would mean that we are protected from deportation and would mean that we have safety and security in our homes and in our jobs. I'm Ana Karen, and I need Congress to protect me and all immigrants from deportation.
Let's talk about sex, baby! Oh, sorry, I meant let's talk about the way society sexualizes women of color by framing them as exotic and why that is overall a bad thing. Sexy. We've all heard of women of color with striking features, whether it's their hair, bodies, eye shape, or skin tone, described as exotic. But what does it really mean? Well, exotic means introduced from another country, or strikingly, excitingly, or mysteriously different or unusual. And if you're using the term scientifically, great. Plants can be exotic. Birds can be exotic. The lamp that my husband decided is out of our budget is exotic. But there's one time you should probably hold off on using the word, when you're describing people. That's just a little pro tip from a lady who's been called exotic by some really well-meaning people a few times more than she would like. My preference would be 0. So here are 3 reasons why being called exotic isn't really a compliment. Number 1, exotic literally means foreign. Exotic comes from the Latin exoticus, which meant belonging to another country. And a lot of times that's just wrong. I mean, I've been called exotic right here in the United States, and I grew up in Florida, which to be fair, Florida is a very different place, but it's not a different country. In reality, exotic is kind of a way of saying, you don't look like you're from around these parts. And when you say it, you're really saying you're different. Which brings me to number 2, exotic is based on white beauty standards. The second part of the definition of exotic is strikingly, excitingly, or mysteriously different or unusual. Whether it's the way people talk about Asian women's almond eyes, the fetishization of black women's butts, or the fascination with racial ambiguity of mixed race women, the features which get people labeled as exotic are almost always in comparison to white ones. Her chocolatey complexion, her rich caramel lips, the rich olive color of her almond-shaped eyes. You ever notice how descriptions of women of color sometimes sound like they belong in a book of recipes? The common thread here is that women of color from various racial backgrounds are often considered exotic because they don't fit into what our culture sees as traditional beauty standards, white and European. And if you don't think that's true, have you ever heard anyone call Blake Lively or Taylor Swift exotic? Me neither. But even though we think of having blonde hair and blue eyes as some sort of all-American look, only 17% of Americans have blue eyes, and only 5% are natural blondes. So that combo is actually very exotic. Number 3, being fetishized is not a compliment. And while many people believe saying things like, I have yellow fever because Asian girls are so hot, or that indigenous women are all sexy Native American Disney princess Halloween costumes, or Latinas are just so sensual, or I love black girls because they have more booty, are compliments, even positive stereotypes are a form of fetishization because they reduce an entire group of women to one thing and ignore their nuance and individuality. And let me be clear, yes, white women, like all groups of women, are fetishized, objectified, and sexualized in problematic ways. But when you exotify and fetishize women of color for things like skin tone, hair texture, eye shape, or our bodies, you're objectifying us in ways that are especially gross because it often plays on perceived racial stereotypes that exist to oppress us in so many other ways. Like the fact that Native American women are the victims of rape and sexual assault at a rate that is 3.5 times higher than that of any race in the United States, with 70% of the perpetrators being non-native. Or that 77% of Latinas experience sexual harassment in the workplace. Or that 77% of the victims that reported alleged sexual trafficking were people of color. Or that not all Black women have booties, no matter how many squats they do. Yeah, it's all very messed up. And people across all racial backgrounds contribute to perpetuating these stereotypes and attitudes, both within their own communities and towards women outside of their communities. There's nothing wrong with our differences, they're part of who we are. But for many women of color, we're constantly being shamed for being different and told we don't belong. So even if "you're so exotic" is meant as a compliment, it can be hurtful because it's just another way of keeping us feeling like we're on the outside. And while not using the word exotic won't solve any of society's bigger problems, being more mindful of the way we speak to each other is the first step in making sure everyone feels like they belong. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time right here on Decoded.
The Asian American and Pacific Islander influence on our culture and music is undeniable, and we're thrilled to have Run River North with us tonight. This Los Angeles-based indie rock band has been entertaining audiences for a decade, and this Korean-American trio is growing the visibility of the AAPI community in American music.
Hi there, welcome. We are Run River North. My name is Alex, this is Daniel and Sally. Thank you guys so much. This is the NEA Conference for Racial and Social Justice. We're really excited to be a part of this and to share our story through our songs. We're going to play some songs from our entire discography. We've been a band for 10 years. We've been touring the country. We've toured Korea, Japan, London as well. And I think being who we are, we're Korean Americans. It comes up in our songs. It comes up in interviews. It comes up whether we like it or not. And I think in terms of we're not singing these songs directly to talk about racial and social justice. But I think just being who we are, whenever we step into a room or play a song in, Little Rock, Arkansas, or Chicago, Illinois, or even in Los Angeles, California, it says something. And so I think just the songs themselves say enough. And so we'd just love to play songs for you guys and hope you guys enjoy, and hope there are many more speakers at this event that will have a lot more better things to say, more articulately. So enjoy these songs. Again, we'll Run River North, and thank you guys so much. 1, 2, 1, 2,
4. Trees grow where the ground's alright. Die old in the middle of the night. Roots of my hands to reach. Cut me down where the water meets the sea. My eyes were the first to find 29 in the middle of the night. Words in my head to sleep. Keep me up until the body disagrees. 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 Your words are cold like the wind. they hold no weight around me. Let go, you're telling me to let go. I know the shadows are the only ones. I know the shadows are the only ones. Trees grow where the ground's alright. Dial in the middle of the night. Words in my head to sleep. Keep me up until the body disagrees. Keep me up until the body disagrees. Your words are cold like the wind. They hold no weight around me. Let go, you're telling me to let go. I know the shadows are the only ones. Your words are cold like the wind. They hold no weight around me. Let go, you're telling me to let go. I know the shadows are the only ones. I know it's home, I know it hurts. I know I'll end up at the bottom of your dirt. What if I leave, never become? What if the sea leads me straight to the sun? I know it's home, I know it hurts. I know I'll end up at the bottom of your dirt. What if I leave, never become? What if the sea leads me straight to the sun? What if the sea leads me straight to the sun? What if the sea leads me straight to the sun? Your words are cold like the wind. They hold no weight around me. Let go, you're telling me to let go. I know the shadows are the only ones. Your words are cold like the wind. They hold no weight around me. Let go, you're telling me to let go. I know the shadows are the only.
Cool. Thank you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Yeah. Growing Up is our next song. Oh, hey. Yeah, Growing Up. All right.
There's a fight to be won for the work find at home. Work to be done for you rest your weary bones. I'm finding peace don't come to everyone I know. So I will love in this life till I finally have to go. Said I will love in this life till I finally have to go. Well, I know I have lived just a wrinkle of my life, and I hear so many times it'll be over if I blink twice. Please forgive if I don't walk off that plank stuck in your eye. I've got my life to love, I'm here to take what's mine. I've got my life to love, and I'm here to take what's mine. Growing up, child, it's just a matter of time. Forgiving all you've got, so won't you dance under the sun? Growing old feels like you're giving up your soul. I'd rather give it freely to the ones that I call home. I ain't scared, no, not afraid of the world in front of me. Found my way without your help. The broken family, I'll take my breaks with my sins. Do as I do, please, with my friends till the end. There lies my loyalty. With my friends close till the end. My lies, their loyalty. I used to close my eyes to what stirred under my bed. Now they're open wide to the monsters in my head. Instead of claws, they whisper lies, sinking fear in quiet steps. So I will fight in the light till I give my final breath. Said I will fight in the light till I give my final breath. Oh, I will fight in the light till I give my final breath. Said I will fight in the light till I give my final breath. Growing up, child, is just a matter of time. Forgiving all you've got, so won't you dance under the sun? Growing old feels like you're giving up your soul. I'd rather give it freely to the ones that I call home. Growing up, child, is just a matter of time. Forgiving all you've got, so won't you dance under the sun? Growing old feels like you're giving up your soul. I'd rather give it freely to the ones that I call home. Growing up, child, is just a matter of time. Forgiving all you've got, so won't you dance under the sun? Growing old feels like you're giving up your soul. I'd rather give it freely to the ones that I call home.
Yeah, yeah. That song's about, fighting in the light, right? Kind of like. Anyways, so this next song is called Spiders. We have a new album out. It's called Creatures in Your Head. And this is one of our favorite songs off of that album. We wrote this one right before pandemic lockdown started in Los Angeles. And we used that Mellotron right there. We used this guitar. Daniel wasn't here, but then he made it happen.
That's why the song's good. Anyway.
And this song is called Spiders.
Spiders off the wall, up to the ceiling. I can't shake them off, 'cause no one sees them. Why this silly face when the room's so serious? No one's happy, it's never enough. Just the way it is, just the way it is. It's just the way it is for now. It's just the way it is, just the way it is. It's just the way it is for now. Yeah. Feel like I'm losing my head, caught up in the pieces don't seem to fit. Don't leave me in the middle of your web, spinning yeses and no. I can't make sense of what you don't even know. Just the way it is, just the way it is. It's just the way it is for now. Just the way it is, just the way it is. It's just the way it is for now. Yeah. been stuck like gum under the desk of a classroom I once slept in. Chewed up all its flavor and love. The bubble never blew up. The basket was just too far. I think I'm going too far. Don't remember where I parked. Just the way it is, just the way it is. It's just the way it is for now. It's just the way it is, just the way it is. It's just the way it is for now. No. The basket was just too far. I think I'm going too far.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, that was our pandemic song off of our pandemic album. Cool. We're gonna end this set with a oldie but a goodie. It is called Beetle. Yeah, let's do this one. Thank you guys so much once again. Thank you, NEA.
What I do, it's nothing new. What I say is too late today. I'm trying to be myself, but so is everyone else. And I'm feeling selfish. I thought it nice to dream to be a Beatle. I think twice, I don't wanna be a bug. The story untold has already been sold to the highest bidder. It's bittersweet, oh it's bittersweet how we just can't see. The same old dreams become the next big thing. We keep swinging our souls to sleep. Don't know where to begin. This is where it'll end up. Do you think that it's over before it even begins? I don't know where to begin. This is where it'll end up. Do you think that it's over before it even begins? Then you'll wake up in a cold and empty sweat, middle of the night, from a dream you'll never forget. You're running from the ghosts on top of the hill, calling your name. Thought he was gone, but you're away, and you were caught in the middle again. You try, you don't know why. monkey in your head says he doesn't exist. No, in your heart you feel alive, but when you sing, you shout out loud. You try, you don't know why. Monkey in your head says he doesn't exist. You know in your heart you feel alive, but when you sing, you shout out loud. 2, 3, 4. Wake up in a cold and empty sweat, the middle of the night, from a dream you'll never forget, and then you'll wake up in a cold and empty sweat, in the middle of the night, from a dream you'll never forget. You're running from the ghosts on top of the hill, calling your name, calling your name. You thought he was gone, but you're awake, and you were caught in the middle again. You're running from the ghosts on top of the hill, calling your name, calling your name. Thought he was gone, but you're awake, and you were caught in the middle again. You're running from the ghosts on top of the hill, calling your name, calling your name. Thought he was gone, but you're awake, and you were caught in the middle again. Thank you, NEA.
Thank you.
Have a great conference.
Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching.
Thanks for
See
watching.
you on the next episode.
I am Ms. Akar. My name is Racism Backwards. I'm an interdisciplinary artist. I work in textiles, paint, pixels, anything that can move and be flexed and moved. I consider myself an arranger, and thematically I work around the themes of play, liberation, and joy. We currently live in a society that is not centered towards Black people, towards women, towards most people, I think, in society. And my work questions the centricity of the existing space that we're in. All of my themes are based around us joyously, and us is very broad, but it's just extremely important to have a wider narrative around Blackness, Black women, and what it is to exist in this land where we are right now, and every single piece that I make tackles those themes. My name is Ms. Akar, and I encourage you to take up space, be large and be expansive, see things in a way you've never seen them before, listen to everything that surrounds you.
Thanks, Ms. Akar. Our next idea maker is Sharante Harris. Sharante intertwines the story of his cultural path with his two-spirit identity to evoke an emotion that sparks dialogue that is too often silenced. A Narragansett two-spirit, Sharante overcame discrimination through traditional dance. Now, he explains how our voices can be used to revitalize the traditions of our communities, make ourselves visible, and bridge the gap between you and me and the system.
Askwi kwasana man ni tampawag, natasui Shirente Mashatashan. Hello, my friends. My name is Shirente Mashatashan Harris. I'm 20 years old and currently a student in the dual degree program at Brown University and Rhode Island School of Design. I'm a member of the Narragansett tribe. We are the federally recognized people of Rhode Island. And I've once said before that in my life, the most controversial act I have ever committed was being myself. For I am also two-spirit. Two-spirit is a modern-day term that is used to describe the collective ideas that Indigenous people have had surrounding LGBT people. Within Indigenous communities, LGBT people are seen as sacred. And living my life as a two-spirit person, I take on the roles of both a man and a woman and find myself throughout my life walking somewhere in between. In my language, I might refer to myself as Noa Ashpa, he who is effeminate, or I might simply say that I am someone who walks Nashawi in that path in between. Two-spirit people are sacred to us because our two spirits are the connectors. It's so easy within our life to begin to think of things in terms of binaries, of right and wrong, of night and day, light and dark, when really there is so much in our existence that is caught in between there. And it's that in between space where life happens, between birth and death. So our two-spirit people are the dusk and the dawn between night and day, and connect our men and our women in our communities. And they do that by reminding us that we are all connected. They wake people up from the illusions, the sort of dreams that they live out to be a functioning member within society. And they remind us of our humanity and tear apart the hierarchies that we can build around ourselves and put ourselves within, and remind us that we are all relations, that we are all the children of Mother Earth, for we all come from the same source. And unfortunately, these ideas were stigmatized when colonists arrived on our shores and invaded. Through hundreds of years, for my people on the East Coast, once the most powerful tribal nation within the region, the Narragansett, after colonization and these invaders came, we endured hundreds of years of forced assimilation and attempted genocide. But we persevered. And through that, we still continue to this day. We have not lost the battle, but have won and are continuing to thrive within our present day. And yet we still live as invisible people within the colonial communities that surround us. Even within the town of Charlestown, where our tribal reservation sits, our Narragansett tribal members are not recognized within our communities, and our issues are not seen. Growing up, I faced tremendous issue within my school community. My parents are educators. My grandparents were educators. And so I have that spirit of education within my veins. And when I think about it in a traditional sense, what is our education but our stories? My family is of the Turtle clan, which for our people is our storytelling clan. For Grandmother Turtle is the wisest and oldest of the creatures, and therefore carries the traditions of our people upon her tongue. And so our oral histories, our stories, they carry on the traditions of our people and instruct our young ones as to why our society exists in the way that it does, to be in balance with the world around us. So, entering into the colonial world for our young Narragansett children is always a traumatic experience. So many of our young boys cut their hair entering into the school system because of the harsh bullying they receive for having long hair and going into the boys' bathroom. And oftentimes our teachers are not equipped with the cultural competency to be able to address those kinds of issues. For me, as a two-spirit person, this issue was all the more rife with struggle. And entering into to these communities, I needed spaces to be seen and to be accepted, because at that time I had not yet come out as two-spirit, and I was living my life as a young boy. And we were a good quarter, if not already halfway through the school year, when my parents met with one of my teachers in the 4th grade, and she was still referring to me with female pronouns. This is just one story among many, and it's something that the Narragansett people and Indigenous people across the country continue to deal with. Our young people not being given the resources for college readiness, and are actually pushed not to go down that path. And so I see it as a tremendous shift for our people and promise for the future in my attending Brown University and Rhode Island School of Design on our ancestral homelands, where the Narragansett people have lived for time immemorial. So being two-spirit, there's also been another wave of education that has happened even within my own tribal community, of decolonization and decolonizing your mind. As I said before, our colonization and the lateral oppression that exists within Indigenous communities is inextricable from our trauma, and this generational trauma that proliferates as a result of our history. And so much of my work was getting our people to remember how to feel again. You know, I've been called an activist by many people, but as I'm sure is the sentiment among many activists, I am simply living my life. And the work that I have been called to is the work that naturally comes from living in an in-between place. So this act of remembering how to feel again is so crucial to understanding decolonization, at least decolonizing our minds, because there's so many facets of decolonization. As I said before, it's very easy for people to get caught into programmatic ways of thinking about the world, whether it's getting stuck in their job and forgetting about the world outside of that sphere, or latching on to ideals and taking them too far, because no one ideal can ever properly capture the multiplicity of experiences that are in this world. And so when these hierarchies break down, which is the role of our Two-Spirit people to do, and everything becomes on even plane for all to see, we can begin to start interrelating. And I think a fundamental tenet of Indigenous worldview is that we are all connected in that interconnectivity. I decided to dance in a style of dance that is a women's style of dance called the fancy shawl dance. It was created during the women's rights movement, which gives you a sense of how our cultures are continuing even to this day. Our people are not something that existed long ago. We are not caught in this sort of ancient past. When you go to powwows, you're not watching a reenactment of something that happened a long time ago. You are watching our continuation. And the Narragansett people actually hold the oldest recorded powwow within our nation's recorded history. Many Indigenous tribes have been having ceremonies for time immemorial as well. But our powwow has been recorded for over 340 years, our August meeting celebration. When we go to these events, I have always been taught that when we dance, it is prayer. We're calling the spirits into motion alongside us. And if I was not dancing in a way that spoke to my truth as a Two-Spirit person, my prayer would be a farce. It would be empty and without meaning. And so I decided that I must go out into my community and remind us who we are, remind us of the old ways. And I was met with much pushback, and there is still homophobia and transphobia that I know I will face every time I go out into those circles. But I continue to do it for our youth that have been voiceless and need these spaces to keep the culture alive for their children and their children's children. And luckily, I finally found a place of acceptance and a community gathered around me that championed me and protested to create change. And that change was not so much taking us to our future, but back to our origins, and the two meet. So that journey has been fundamental and transformative to me. And so, you know, education never ends. And I think the beautiful thing about education is that it can come from anywhere. Building awareness for something is such an easy thing to do because all we have to do is tell our stories. And that awareness is the first step to creating lasting change. I think about our school systems again, and my brother and I were talking the other day about how funny it is that Native people are only ever talked about in specific terms. For example, usually children are taught about what Native American people would eat. And so they learn about the Three Sisters and corned bean and squash and the ingenious science that our people did to cultivate these crops together. But there's so much more history, so many more profound things that have to do with our many nations that is discarded and is not talked about. And my brother and I realized that the reason why, at least in our schools, we learn about the Native Americans eating corned bean and squash and these different animals is because that is how we were important to the invaders. That is how we are important within the story of Western history. The story of the Wampanoag helping the Pilgrims to survive by teaching them how to live off of the land. And so we must shift that focus and start telling the stories of many different peoples, not just in how they were important to white people's history, but tell the stories of Native people during revolutionary times, tell the stories of indigenous slavery and forced indentured servitude, which in the cases of many Native people, the use of the term indentured servitude does not capture the reality of those kinds of situations where Native people were forcibly put, oftentimes women and children, into these enslaved situations where their culture was totally stripped from them against their will. And many times, the time in which they were supposed to serve was prolonged and kept far longer than what was initially agreed to. These kinds of stories, we don't often hear the stories of Native slaves, but they are present all around us. Here in Rhode Island, there are stone walls that go throughout the countryside, that for Narragansett people, we remember this history of the Narragansetts that built those walls, while other people in Rhode Island simply tell the story of the farmers who built those walls to divvy up the land. If they would hear our stories, they would know that our stonemasonry tradition went far before we were bound out into forced indentured servitude or slavery. And so that is my call to action for you all. As you continue to be educators and makers of change to our youth, I ask that you look for those histories that have been untouched and have been silenced by the narrative, and you work to integrate them alongside what you are required to teach. And I thank you all for listening to my story today. When we connect in these sort of ways and tell our stories, there's something magical that kind of happens. Because as I've said, we remember that we are all interconnected. And so I thank you, my relatives, for taking the time to listen to me. Katapatanamu.
I think that it's really important for teachers and parents and students to become aligned and be in dialogue with one another. Our existences are really linked and connected.
We can push for a better educational system for everyone. And I really think what moves me is the words of John Lewis. He says, be hopeful, be optimistic, never be afraid to make some noise and get into good trouble, necessary trouble.
The anti-Black racism in OUSD has created the conditions where we have these inequities in student outcomes, in student health and safety, and we need to change that. For me, this is the work.
Bias, criminalization, low expectations, school closures, and pushouts. This is the context that we're facing in OUSD.
It is really pushing forward policies of safe and just communities, accountable communities, health and empowering communities, all of that.
Every week, we're supporting parents and talking with parents about what they need and really seeing a partnership with our educators and with the union in ensuring that our families are taken care of. And that just makes it so clear that, that is the work. But we also have to recognize that unless we change the systems that have created these inequities, that none of it matters.
It's important for educators, I think, to work in collaboration with parents and students and community members because our issues are so aligned. When we come together, we really find that we're able to unite and build power in ways that I think are really unprecedented. We're able to fight off things that we had not been able to fight off before. With the Black Organizing Project, we were able to win police-free schools. We came together with parents and students and fought off charter co-locations for 2 years in a row. When we come together, we have power, and that power is incredibly important for us to be able to provide quality education for our students and to be able to ensure that we really start changing public education around the nation.
It is vital that we do that. It's integral to advocate on decisions that impact our schools and communities with our Black, Brown, and Indigenous folks, brothers, sisters, siblings, and really chart a new course that is a course of a just and safe community, lifting up our marginalized and most vulnerable communities, creating safe spaces, healthy, strong communities, and that we're empowering young folks and families to be part of their education. It is our time to really come together and as a community to support one another.
For our students together.
When we fight, we win.
It was July in Chicago, and the lake was the coolest place to be. Eugene Williams, 17 years old, was in a makeshift raft on Lake Michigan when he accidentally drifted across an invisible line to the white part of the lake. A white man on the bank spotted Eugene and started throwing rocks at the raft, and Eugene fell into the water and drowned. Eyewitnesses told the police exactly who threw the rocks, but the police refused to arrest him.
Riots broke out that day in 1919, and gangs of white rioters ripped Black people off streetcars at busy intersections and beat them with their fists and with makeshift weapons. The violence lasted almost a week. 38 people dead, 23 Black people dead, 15 white people dead, more than 500 injured, and more than 1,000 Black people left homeless after their houses had been burned to the ground. And Chicago wasn't the only city in turmoil that summer. There were more than 25 uprisings in America that bloody summer. Why did this happen? How do we prevent it from happening again? These are the questions that Governor Frank Loudon wanted answers to. And so he appointed a commission, 6 Black men, 6 white men, to answer these questions. 3 years and 672 pages later, what did they find? Listen to this. Negroes are more commonly arrested, subjected to police identification, and convicted than white offenders. That on similar evidence, they are generally held and convicted on more serious charges, and that they are given longer sentences. These practices and tendencies weaken the machinery of justice and produce misleading statistics of Negro crime. But policing was just one facet of white supremacy that they found in all areas of existence in America, in housing, in education, in employment. And the commission said Chicago needed more integration, more investment in communities, equal protection under the law. This is 1922, folks. "92 years later, Chicago police officer shot Laquan McDonald 16 times in the back.
16 shots! 16 shots! 16 shots!
2 years later, a report comes out finding that the police have no regard for the sanctity of life when it comes to people of color.
Black lives matter! Black lives matter!
The past is never dead. It's not even past. Between 2008 and 2015, 74% of the people injured or killed in officer-involved shootings were Black people.
How many kids were you killed today?
And yet Chicago Police's budget per capita has tripled since 1964. Even though crime has gone down, it takes up to 40% of the city's general operating budget. We've known the problem, and we've known the solution. Now we need to do more than file the answers away in a drawer.
My name is Jackie Wang, and I am a high school teacher as well as a wellness instructor. Being a teacher has brought a lot of perspective to me in why I need to vote. Our school site actually is a voting site. My students, I got to see them vote for the first time. It really moved me to see Black and brown young folks starting something new. To have a movement, we need people to be present. It gives us every reason not to ignore our needs.
Our next guest is a philosopher, writer, journalist, and filmmaker, Barrett Holmes Pittner. His work focuses on combating ethnocide and the cultural significance and practice of remembering those who came before us to strengthen our communities today. His work is especially timely as we navigate loss and remembrance, as we work to make a more just future.
Barrett Holmes Pittner. I'm the founder and philosopher-in-chief of the Sustainable Culture Lab. Around 2016, I got introduced to Day of the Dead. As an African American, I really had no exposure to Day of the Dead or Dia de los Muertos or really any kind of ancestor remembrance tradition. But once I saw it and I experienced it for the first time, I could see how it could be beneficial for the African American community and just also America at large. I recognized that following the deaths of Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown, Eric Gardner, the growth of the Black Lives Matter movement, we were making altars all across the country to remind people of the importance of Black life and Black culture and Black existence. But all of these altars were reactionary. They were in response to some sort of terror. And I wondered and questioned if this response to terror was something that would allow us to transcend terror, or if it was something that would allow us to cope with the terror and just stay the same but more emotionally together. And so when I saw Day of the Dead, I saw an opportunity to proactively celebrate our culture in an inclusive, diverse way that could bring in Indigenous people and Latinos and Asian Americans and all sorts of Americans into the mix. And so I had this idea for a really long time, and eventually I went down to Atlanta and I had my parents make an altar for the first time for Dia de los Muertos.
I think it's a very good concept, a joining of two groups, two minority groups, as a matter of fact, in the United States. I think could make it even stronger because of all of us coming together. And what I hope is it becomes a national thing, that every year that we celebrate the Altars Project here in the United States. Well, definitely would benefit because our rituals were ripped away from us, and I think we need a new one.
So received of Daniel Pratt $700 for a Negro mulatto boy named Charles, which boy I warrant sound and healthy and a slave for life. The title to which boy I warrant against all claims, said boy is about 13 years old, this 30th day of March, 1843. Samuel Griswold.
Received of Mr. Daniel Pratt $1,800 in full payment for a Negro girl, Eliza, aged 19, and her two children, little girls, coming 4 and 2 years old, which I warrant sound in body and mind, and in titles and slaves for life. March 2nd, 1859, Amos Smith Sr.
So many people being killed, everybody being afraid, and I'm tired of people being afraid. And I want it to be a celebration of the people that we've lost, that we remember them, that we always love them. And I think this will help people to learn how to mourn and how to celebrate and not spend so much time being so sad.
Learning how to handle something that will enhance your own being is something that would be beneficial.
So after doing the altar with my parents and seeing how beneficial it was, I was committed to expanding this and incorporating it with other people and other communities and not just my family. And it became obvious that people were quite concerned about appropriating other people's culture, and it hit me that no matter how I phrased it or articulated what I was doing, the words weren't connecting. It was there was that same concern that we're going to appropriate and take somebody else's culture. And so eventually the light bulb went off that I needed to collaborate with artists. I needed to get the artists to make the altars so that people could see the work, where I didn't have to say and explain and have a conversation with people. They could just see the artist's work, the manifestation of an altar that isn't appropriating anybody's culture. It authentically speaks to their individual and cultural experience.
So altars for me signify recognizing those who came before us and the land that was here before us, and understanding that we're part of the land. I brought back these found objects from South Africa, these oxidized cans and beer bottles that have been discarded and thrown away and seen as dangerous, sharp, rusted, holes inside of them. I'm going to make an altar out of those on top of books that have inspired my growth, books that have inspired my artwork over the years, and books that have allowed me to acknowledge the ancestors that much more. I try to fuse and meld all those things together. The last few years I've been going to Haiti during Fête Guédé, which is the Day of the Dead. So it's huge in Latin America, and it's really big in Haiti. And it's a time that we honor the saints and honor our ancestors that have come before us. This altar is going to be inspired by those experiences and my personal experiences as an artist. I think these cans are special and beautiful. The rust color almost reflects the color in my skin, which I think is magnificent. These cans have stories. These cans have felt the weather of the place that they've been in, and I remove them from that place. And oftentimes we're removed from the places we're from too.
So when we curated the artists, we wanted to be able for the artists to really speak for themselves and what that connection meant with altars. So for us, it wasn't about saying, hey, we want you to create an altar. What it was this is what we see altars is. Something that is really about honoring your heritage, honoring family, and honoring ancestors.
One thing that I'm doing in this altar practice is to honor the women in Islamic history and these traditions of prophetess, is getting their names and creating these clay tablets for people to have when they visit and take back with them to their own homes, by essentially creating them in the same way that I've created the back of the altar space through laser cutting wood and imprinting it, impressing it into clay so that the names of the people are specific women in Islamic history who do not receive enough mention. Their stories are not fully known.
Mi nombre es Muriel Villalobos, soy de Santiago de Chile y actualmente me encuentro viviendo aquí en Washington, D.C. Particularmente me gustó mucho ser parte de este proyecto porque como latina puedo decir de que cuando uno habla de altar automáticamente se te viene a la cabeza la idea de religión, y quise ser parte de este proyecto para demostrar o para compartir la idea de que altar no significa religión. Uno puede tener su propio altar sin estar ligado a la religión propiamente tal, sino centrarte en ti mismo, en tus propios pensamientos, en tu paz interior, recordar a antepasados que ya hayan fallecido, que sigan vivos pero que no los tienes cerca, whatever. So, Es un espacio más personal que de devoción a una religión específico.
Hi, I'm Denise Johnson, and I am the mother of 6 wonderful sons, and one of whom is Crsj. Crsj smiled every single day and found something to laugh about. I mean, and laugh heartily about every single day.
The 3 words that could best describe Crsj is, I would say, strength, positivity, and swag.
He's super cool. He's handsome. He got great cool style.
Man, he's like probably one of the coolest brothers, and not the coolest brother out of everybody. Like he like the flyest one, like always been the smartest one. I used to go to him like on one-on-one, just talking to him, being there for his while, emotionally, mentally, physically, like anything. Like he was just like one of the best people in this world, like basically an angel on earth.
Crsj, when he was home alone at grandma's house, and I was just about to get off of school, he always used to be at the door all the time, just looking outside, waiting for me.
One thing that I noticed like about Kwa, like at a young age, was like the way he carried himself, the way he always handled his stuff. He ain't like really never complained. He always took care of everything he had to take care. Never really like asked nobody for nothing. He was always like stand up solid guy. Definitely got the girls.
Crsj had phenomenal strength. He was able to almost compartmentalize. He was going through a lot of things, and I never seen him have anything less than a smile on his face.
If I were to kind of say a couple of words about his character or who he was, it would be wisdom. He had a quiet wisdom about him that I don't think I really became completely aware of it until I watched him go through his physical, his illness and the physical limitations that he suffered as a result of it. And I really started to see and understand that he had a wisdom that was well beyond men twice or 3 times his age.
My name's Eric Brunner-Yang. I'm the chef owner of Makedo here in Washington, D.C. I'm excited to participate in this Altars project with Sama Sama. Today we're going to talk about my performance art piece that's based around the inspiration of a Cambodian religious holiday called Pachum Bun. Essentially, it happens right around late September, early October, and it's a 15-day religious holiday. And on the last day, it is a day that people in the living connect with their ancestors of the past or who have passed away through the communion of prayer and food. So our performance art piece is related to this holiday, and then also what is currently happening right now, which is obviously COVID-19. And we're going to be paying our respects to the roughly 700 people that have died of COVID-19 here in the district, using the framework of this holiday as part of the piece. There's just so many lives lost, and the inability, because of this time period, for people to do proper goodbyes. A lot of people are passing away in hospitals, in isolation, having to say their goodbyes via Facebook, FaceTime, or etc. And I think we really want to do this as a celebration, as a way to just give honor to their lives during this tragedy, and showing how Asian Americans, specifically Cambodian Americans, kind of celebrate and speak about death that might be different than that people normally don't know about.
I utilize my history of indenture a lot in my artwork. I see it as an opportunity to think through how the past and present kind of merge to create a future that is supportive of all people and kind of puts the dignity of all people at the forefront of what we're trying to create and what will sustain us as human beings. My spirituality is also very indicative of my artwork. Being somebody who wants to be centered and believes that my self-work can support who I want to be in community and in partnership with other people. This is actually the first mala I ever got. It's made out of sandalwood. And you use this to pray, to meditate, and I find it really helpful to center me. And so this is basically what I'll be creating, and this is a very old mala. So the next steps for these are to sand them and to paint them. And yeah, I'm really excited about it because I haven't used clay that much, but I definitely am feeling more of a love for clay now.
It's been 2 years since the tragedy. 2 years since I walked down the street. Red and blue lights ride by. It ain't nothing new though, I see it all the time. I hopped in the back seat when I seen the river streams leaking from my sister's eyes, and I'm thinking, maybe she just had a bad day, you know? Until the waterworks turns into screams and cries, and I know something ain't right. My mother recites the source of the waterworks, and at first, I don't know how to respond. I can't even grasp the fact that he's not here anymore. I tell myself, ain't no way, until the next day it hits me harder than before. I shed tears until my eyes are swollen and a piece of my heart feel like it's been physically stolen. I joined the peers whose nightmares became reality and focused my mind on trying to gain my confidentiality, but then I realized his blood forever rests on the hands of man. Oh man, the world starts spinning, the room gets hot. Can't you feel what I felt when my head throbbed nonstop? And I started visualizing the scene until I actually seen the news, the pictures, the videos, the body, the tears, the blood. I keep telling myself, Kanaya, you have to be strong for others. So I stop the cries and put a pen to paper and decide to hide the pain and remember he's with God, the one who's never switched and has always been on my side. And I deprive my thoughts that say he isn't fine. And remember that everything's for Ty. So fly high.
They're killing me. Slowly. I'm trying to hold on for dear life, but they stabbed me so many times, my bloodline slowly seeps out. My ancestors high and mighty with tears in their eyes, just watching our culture's demise. And we can no longer save it. Just enjoy the small pieces that will be left behind. But as my culture slowly dies within me, they pick up the blood and lather themselves in it, tell themselves it's theirs and love every inch of it. You start to notice they only love your culture resurrected in their wrong skin. Killed your love for its immortal sin. Wishing you could go and pick up the blood and lather yourself in it. Learn to love was once yours again. But it's whitewashed. It's lost its value, its authenticity, and now you have to adapt. Learn to love your mixed blood because it's the closest you'll ever get to your ancestors' art. Always remember though, these stolen goods, this stolen beauty, this stolen blood, they'll only be able to lather themselves in. But they will never be able to feel the pride that my ancestors left in my blood.
This is something that we're going to do every single year from October 31st to November 2nd. And we think it can have such a transformational impact in American society, not just to help communities of color cope with the trauma of loss, strengthen their community, keep their stories alive, and also to expand that to all Americans. You know, a lot of white Americans who attended the festival last year spoke about how they felt empowered to remember their ancestors because of this tradition, and that they felt comfortable that they could just have an altar that didn't have any distinct imagery, or could be something just as simple as a candle and photos, and now they knew that they could do it without appropriating other people's culture. So for us, this is an annual tradition that's going to be cross-cultural, extending to every facet of America, and we look forward to growing this and expanding it every single year. One thing that we have noticed that's really, really incredible is, this is a tough topic for people. Talking about trauma and death and ancestors is just really emotionally taxing, and a lot of times when we bring it up to people, they wouldn't want to participate, and I could totally understand that. Like, this is tough. But the fact that it happens every single year always creates a door, an opportunity for people to participate. So if you aren't comfortable participating this year and you take a back seat and just watch people do it, and you become maybe a little bit more comfortable, that means maybe the next year that you want to do it, or the year after that. There's no urgency or pressure that you have to do it right now. I know when I first experienced Day of the Dead, I was the person standing in the background watching everybody figuring this out before I felt comfortable, jumping in. And a couple years later, I'm creating a festival to do the whole thing. And so, there's a comfort in having it as an annual tradition, and I think that's really profound.
Maimouna Yusuf is a Grammy-nominated singer, songwriter, and rapper who performs under the stage name Moo Fresh. Her Choctaw, Creek, Cherokee, and African-American heritage influences her music completely. Maimouna's work continues to establish her as a true global citizen, a musical healer, teacher, powerhouse performer, and community pillar.
Damn, I missed this. It's been so long. We rock for a crowd. Woo! Just been at home on my couch in my bedroom, pretending like people was there. Butterflies, butterflies, side up, sweet, 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 butterflies don't decide that they don't want to fly no more. Lions never say that they don't want to roar. So why do we deny our own light inside? Baby, we were made from stardust, so just shine. You know that whales never fail to rule the open sea. You never see a honeybee neglect to make honey. Why do we deny our own light inside? Baby, we were made from stardust, so I can't can only live my purpose, or at least for it I'm searching. Ever since I was plucked from the stars onto the earth's surface, robbed of my memory, led to believe that I was worthless, searching for God outside when all the while I had a surplus. Given free will, no knowledge of destiny. My past has been stolen, it seems they got the best of me. Damn, but I got one lifeline left, and the rest inside my chest. Yes, this secret weapon is this moment I own it. Yes, I'm blessed. You know that butterflies on the side that they don't wanna fly no more. Lions never say that they don't wanna roar. So why do we deny our own light inside? Baby, we were made from stardust, so shine. You know that whales never fail to rule the open sea. You never see a honeybee neglect to make honey. Why do we deny the light inside? Baby, we were made from stardust, so breathe. Ooh, sweetie, dee doo doo doo, da 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 ba ba, yeah. Sweetie, dee dee doo ba ba, da 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 ba da, sweetie, dee dee doo da 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 da, top of the morning, I'm stretching and yawning, feeling grateful for the blessings that I have been afforded. God has really rewarded me, not just with material things, but with perspective. I eat it up like breakfast, cause I get the message. From now until you're resting with the stars, you'll always see the world not as it is, but as you are. Stay focused on raising your vibration. You the dopest with every iteration. Don't wait on change, provoke it. And when you're at your lowest, heart feeling is broken, remember contrast is important to your focus. How would you know which way to go without the diagnosis? And in your darkest hour, reach high, word to my floaters. Never notice you don't know what you want until you know what you don't. I ain't know that money mattered till I dated a bum, and I looked at him like, how much you want? I don't mind sharing, believe me some. You know I'm straight out the slump, but God gave me a little something. Told me speak to his people and get them hip. You can turn up at the party, but remember who you leaving with. This flesh is temporary, soul is where the sequel lives. Ain't hard to find the answers, but the questions, are you seeking it? Do you believe in it? Are you receptive to receiving it? The questions, are you seeking it? Do you believe in it? Do you to receiving it? And baby, won't you shine? I said, baby, watch you shine. Come on, baby, won't you shine? I wanna see you shine. Said, baby, won't you shine? Oh, baby, won't you shine? Baby, won't you shine? Oh, baby, won't you be big, be bold, be bright, just shine, baby, be big, be bold, be bright, just shine. Come on, be big, be bold, be bright, just shine, baby, be bold, be bright, just shine. Come on, baby, shine, 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 shine. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Say, come on, won't you shine, 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 shine. So come on, won't you shine, shut the shine, shine, shut the down, send the shine, and the shine, and the shine. Baby, won't you shine a light? So come on, won't you shine your light? So baby, won't you shine your light? Baby, won't you shine your light? Won't you shine your light? Baby, won't you shine your light? Come on, won't you shine your light? Said I shine your light on the world. Baby, won't you shine, 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 shine. Baby, won't you shine, shine, to shine, and the shine. Shine, 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 won't you shine, shine? Said, come on, won't you shine your light? Said, come on, won't you shine your light? Just shine, 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 shine. shine, 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 shine your light. Song that we worked on with DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Playlist Collective, and we've been thinking about when to put this song out, right? We're going back and forth about it. And we decided that we were going to put it out now because, see, the song is called Grateful. And we were debating, like, should we wait until everything is good, till we win, you know, till the COVID is over, till the war is over? But the truth is, you got to be grateful in the midst of the struggle. Grateful for the lessons that the struggle teach you. Grateful for the resilience that God has given you to get through the struggle, every moment of it. Gratitude is a journey. It's a daily ritual, not just what we say when we win, right, or when it's over, because it's never really over, you know, and we are constantly becoming, and our gratitude in the midst of the becoming is a part of the evolution of it, you know, is a part of the victory. So this song is called Grateful, and so we wanted, this is our first time ever perform it for you. So we want to just share it with you, but you got a part to sing, right? Because normally when we recorded this song, we had like 10-piece band, 7 singers, but we just here for you. And so then you're going to sing your part. You ready? If y'all get into the groove, I'll teach them their part. Oh, shit. Hey, you are. Hey, hey. Oh, hold on. I'm going to tell you your part. Let me get this mic up. I'm grateful. I'm grateful. I'm grateful. I'm grateful. All right, that's your part right there. I'm grateful. So if you at home, I'm grateful. You at your job, I'm grateful. You with your family, I'm grateful. You with your side chick having an entanglement, grateful. No matter where you at, I want to see y'all be grateful. Let me hear you sing it. I'm grateful. Yeah, I'm grateful. Oh, oh, I'm grateful for the simple things. I'm grateful for the sun and rain. I'm grateful for my baby boy. I'm grateful for all this joy. I'm grateful. Say I'm grateful. Yeah, I'm grateful. No matter what, I'm grateful. Yeah, say that I'm grateful. Say that for my melanin. I'm grateful. Oh, that I paid my rent. I'm grateful that my daddy came home from jail. Grateful that my soul ain't up for sale. I'm grateful for the simple things. I'm grateful for the joy and all the pain. Grateful. I can't hear y'all, a little louder, y'all. I'm grateful. All right, I like that. I'm grateful. Ooh, oh, I'm grateful. I want you at home to list all the things I'm grateful that you are grateful for, everything. Say I'm grateful for my parents' sacrifice. I'm grateful for my ancestors that paid the price. I'm grateful. Eh, say I'm grateful. I'm grateful. You ready? It don't cost nothing to be grateful for the simple things. I'm thankful. Sometimes life can be a painful. Joy keeps the spirit young and playful. Can't no hurt making me hateful. Without who's able, lift me up and keep me stable. Lift me up and keep me faithful. Wake up in the morning, I say thank you. Can't nobody tell me nothing that I can't do. Fresh face, man, you gotta hit the angles. Head wrap with a cap and some bangles. This little light of mine is hella fine. I'm bonafide, a heavy grind, I'ma let it shine. I go harder, flow like martyrs, fight like martyrs. Get your water, flow hit, awesome, flow hit, blossom. Soul ain't for sale, it don't matter the offer. Woo! My soul ain't for sale, it don't matter the offer. Hey! For the simple things, I'm grateful. I wanna hear y'all sing that, y'all. I'm grateful. drunken land. I'm grateful for the drunken land. I'm grateful.